Hey, this is Robert of Mayflower Bookshop in Berkeley, Michigan, on the web at mayflowerbookshop.com. I want to talk about astrology a little bit. The big thing in 2021, and it has really carried us for quite a bit here, is the Saturn square Uranus. Saturn being grounded, security, long-term structure, foundation, or obstacles, heavy weight, karma. It's either dharma or karma. Saturn is you either discipline yourself. Wherever Saturn is in your astrology chart, you either discipline yourself or you are disciplined, or you create structure or you're kind of forced into a structure. And one has to have a long-term view, like an ever learning, like discipline is like discipleship or learning or a sense of like long-term security and goal. And Uranus wants it now. Uranus is the sudden illumination and revelation. On a negative side, Uranus can be the shock and awe and the apocalypse without a revelation, but Uranus always is moving you toward a better situation, even if it has to remove you from a bad one. And Saturn square Uranus, Saturn's coming back to Uranus. It's on what they call waning square. And Saturn's trying to return to Uranus. And so you might say that freedom and security have struggled for some people, a half a lifetime or a third of a lifetime. For some people, it's more 7 to 10 years of trying to learn how to contract one's structure and methodical, whether it's good or bad, materialistic thinking. There is a good materialistic thinking that sees the thinking in all things and where things come from and where they're going, and wakes up from the spell of crass materialism to actually see the wisdom of all things wishing for happiness. And Saturn is the wisdom that only comes through time. And so, but Saturn Uranus has really influenced, especially now, it's heavily influenced, and especially since Pluto's at the end of Capricorn, and in coming years, trying to get into Aquarius, 23, 24, 2023, 24, that there's a really, and what I'd like to talk about now actually is the signs of the zodiac. And if you have your astrology chart from the Mayflower or from one of the astrology program we sell, or you find it online, it's good to have your astrology chart because you may have Venus in late Capricorn or early Aquarius. You may have Mars or Jupiter. Every planet is a different aspect of several levels, if not 10 levels of consciousness and form and dissolution. Okay, so if you're new to astrology is a whole language of possibility and tendency and probability. Astrology is this art of interpretation, but it's a scientific or computer analysis of where the planets are at your birth and where are they now or at any time past, present, or future, and how the planets now are affecting you. And that's what I'm talking about, is that Saturn, this big thing of a triple square of Saturn square Uranus, and that Saturn is in Aquarius. And so, when Aquarius is opposing Leo, it's squaring Scorpio and Taurus. And so when you have Saturn in Aquarius opposing Leo, you have Leos feel like other people weigh them down, Saturn, because Saturn's opposing the Leo, that they're opposed by some strong thinking or structure or karma. Or is it dharma, teaching some new things that take time? Saturn takes time, and Uranus wants to take no time at all. Neptune can get lost in timelessness or lost at sea or be dissolved into a higher sense of oneness, although negatively it could be a lower sense of oneness. And Pluto is wanting to plummet the depths of something and understand the deepest part of something. And almost like you need to let go of the past or you're going to get stuck by the past. Pluto has this notoriety of kind of a death and rebirth. But right now I'm talking about, renewal, degeneration or regeneration is a theme of Scorpio and Pluto, the ruler of Scorpio. Saturn's ruled by Saturn's the ruler of Capricorn, which is long-term structure and higher goals or lower goals, depending on who you are. All the planets have a higher and lower octave, as I mentioned in Astrological Aspects, the Art, a pretty thick book that I put out trying to share a lot of my ideas of planets and aspects and esoteric ideas of how Tibetan Buddhism and anthroposophy and Steiner and theosophy how esoteric science would work with astrology, or astrology works with esoteric science, such as the 3 principles of the path in Tibetan Buddhism being determination to be free of suffering and free to become enlightened, and that's Uranus on a higher octave. And then Neptune is Bodhi mind, compassion, wisdom, love, compassion. Neptune is this kind of sense of belonging to a social cultural identity, for better or worse. And in Tibetan Buddhism, it's for the better, the spiritual community of healing and growth, and for giving in the sense of for, meaning future, giving yourself to the future. And then Pluto is the right view of emptiness, calm, like Pluto's actually, the Tibetans have the secret of Pluto. Determination to be free, Bodhi, mind of compassion, Uranus, Neptune. And then Pluto is wisdom, the wisdom of the right view of selfless learning, of the right view of self. Is there a self? I mean, so to put it simply, Pluto requests that you have radical selflessness in learning in any situation, and that one is often dragged into some situation that takes time and a sacrifice, surrender, selfless service to both the nothing, selfless being here now, be here now, service to the be here now, and to the nothing and everything. I hope that made sense, that human being is actually somehow connected and feels at some place or knows in some place. The human being is connected to everything, all life, to the one life. And every particle of that one life, how it relates or not relates to that oneness, and even to a greater stillness of a sense of self and other. And it's very difficult to talk about because you enter into poetic, unless a person's enlightened, one enters into almost like a poetic, creative reflection. So the big thing this year in 2021 has been the Saturn square Uranus, which is this determination, this like kind of like wanting to be free and liberated and creative and go to the next level, Uranus. And Saturn is, what form are you going to have, and will the form hold you? And there's this tension of irritability and versus being either inhibited or stuck, and this tension that arises out of freedom versus security, trying to take a further step, a new step, versus trying to solidify the ground under your feet or behind you. And on a positive level, it's this ever adaptable, changing, ever renewable ability to adapt to every situation and this higher awareness that pulls you through the day and structures to endure into a greater flowering, a perseverance and endurance that is indefatigable, kind of like some kind of higher will and determination to at least know why things are happening. And that Uranus just wants to know, the truth. The Uranus is like kind of like an attempt at truth. And Saturn is an attempt at coming to something that will last a while. And this can produce, Uranus-Saturn can produce, it's like a destructuring and restructuring, and it's also trying to like heal chaotic moments into something that will endure with a sense of deeper rootedness and learning. Overcoming irritability and strains and tensions and conflicts, intellectual versus emotional, materialistic versus spirited, rebel, urge for freedom. And Uranus can be provocative and shocking. If you're not careful, you go too crazy, and chaos produces violence, right? We saw that in a lot of people who are radically rebelling against or for something. So it's this kind of danger of a self-willed nature that doesn't lock into thy higher will. Thy will be done, not my will, is a great poetic spiritual ideal in the Our Father, that the oneness, the Neoplatonic Hermetic Father, or even the Christian one in the prayer, Our Father, the Father is the principle of oneness, and there's a higher and lower aspect of that we feel at one, or we can see the thinking in all things that are trying to harmonize into a greater sense of unity and oneness. Or is it this radical, deeper, I'm calling it radical, but it's really a deep, profound peace that passes understanding, a heart of understanding that transcends the head thinking, that can cross through the dead sense-bound thinking, the Dead Sea, cross the Dead Sea into the heart of the new Jerusalem, the new land. I mean, again, these are just words. And the Saturn Uranus is this tension between being connected and being kind of disconnected and free. Freedom versus, it's a freedom that's trying to work with securing a structure. So, Eberton, a great astrologer, thinks that this aspect can inhibit rhythms and give heart blocks and unrhythmical breathing processes, and a sudden sense of cutting off, I think. I think there's a wonderful book called The Science of Breath by Swami Ramacharaka at the Mayflower bookshop that can help a lot with reuniting the head with the heart. In another breathing Om talk, I talk about just letting go of your breath in Patanjali's yoga aphorisms. You let go of your breath. And my first spiritual teacher talked about that when I was very young, and letting go of your breath, letting go of your thinking, letting go of your feelings, letting go of your thought, letting go of your position, and breathing out, letting go to God, letting go to the world, just letting go, and breathing out. And then breathing in from the bottom up to your heart. I call this Holy Grail breathing. And realizing as you breathe up from the Earth Mother to your heart, you realize that the stars in an Arthurian, higher-minded way meets Parsifal in the heart. In other words, you let go of your breath and you breathe up from below, and you just kind of like sense that the higher worlds in your higher self, the Christ, the Christos, the Buddha, descends into your heart. And so there's this kind of meeting of I think everybody has a split self in a way, that the ideal versus the practical reality, that could be part of the trans-Saturnian planet Uranus, which kind of introduces you to Neptune and Pluto. as it also tries to recognize the sense of a sun center and earth center. I use geocentric astrology because the heart spells the word earth, and that we're earth-centered. We should be earth-centered, trying to find how spirituality can enliven form, and how, for lack of better words, you might say that the lords of the flame, the spirit of the sun, has come to earth and come into our hearts and our minds like Prometheus, bringing the fire of intelligence and love to reunite within our soul. And this weaving, this breathing of heaven and earth in the stillness within ourselves awakens a greater sense of understanding and knowing and going. This is real astrology. This is spiritual astrology, you know. So I wanted to talk about this idea of avoiding violence in your meditation, trying to get to a pure stillness and golden spark of love and truth. And there's a certain kind of strength that comes from overcoming a Michaelic, archangelic strength in overcoming difficulties and battles of life for the purpose of self-realization and not mutual admiration clubs, not authority group, not false authorities based on external rank and fortune, but the authority of experience distilled in higher truth and love that brings about a creativity that interacts with not only the whole of your life, but the future evolution of the earth. And I think that this is the true rebel with the unadulterated love and truth of learning. This is the real entrance way to the open secret of just life around us that we can learn from. I mean, I think on even a stronger level, anthroposophy, Rudolf Steiner, Blavatsky's theosophy that Gandhi and Martin Luther King read, and Einstein and Manly Hall and many others started me on my journey to discover Steiner and Tibetan Buddhism. And the study of Tibetan Buddhism and Hermetics, Plotinus, Proclus, Porphyry, Alexander Wilder, Neoplatonism, Divine Pymander, Hermetics, the Kabbalion, The Secret Teachings of All Ages by Manly Hall, Yoga, Hinduism, Esoteric Christianity and the Holy Grail. I mean, there's so many beautiful things to study, the magical pagan side of life, Socrates and Aristotle, and herbology and self-healing. It's really great. And that could be like this combination of study, Saturn, and discipline, as well as trying something new. And you can see the Saturn Uranus struggle even in the way that I'm presenting this. Uranus wants to come to know it all at once, and what's the insight? Tell me now, and let's just get it and keep going. And Saturn wants to hold still, so you don't just get quick knowledge, you have the experience of it that seasons you and distills your own experience into the elixir of higher wisdom and insight and a greater sense of, I think that when we know ourselves and each other and we start to know the world around us and we start to figure out that we're like things like the Rosicrucian impulse of theosophy, that we're on the fourth earth of seven, and that the minerals and the earth and the plants, trees, flowers, vegetables, and the animals, the winds and desire of coming and going, the movement, the aliveness, the consciousness, and the sense of the ego, the fourth, that I am everything and nothing. I mean, this whole sense of real anthroposophy and real theosophy makes you not just go dead in the bedroom or the spiritual religious meeting or the cathedral. You don't go dead. You don't go dead with the book. You're coming alive. You're coming alive, and that you're interactive and co-creative with this deep radical stillness that can sense the silence that cause from every living thing. Now I know I'm waxing kind of esoteric. Okay, let's get back to Saturn and Uranus. And this overcoming with new insight to create a new form of intelligence. And the danger of kicking against everything and fighting everything, and always kicking against the limitations of what one perceives as freedom. I mean, know the truth and you'll be free, right? So the truth starts with this radical stillness, and the truth is the relativity of everything, that there's no separate self, that everything's interactive with everything, and we need everything. Everything that's existing on the planet allows you to have the experience you're having right now. Everything mothers you, and we mother everything back. And so do we create new insights that stop us in our tracks with revelation rather than apocalypse? Do we cause unrest within our environment and our friends? Or do we cause false security and false limitation and holding stuck? Do we always somehow walk into quarrels and separative ideas? Do we always have to use force to intervene in other countries and other people, or even ourselves? Can we enter into dharma rather than karma? Destiny rather than fate? That the limits we experience are the boundaries of our artistic endeavor? That freedom can come from these creative boundaries? I mean, that's the Saturn Uranus. And I might add that, excuse me, that Uranus is moving through Taurus for several years, and we're in the middle about, and so Taurus is possessions and money and things, and how we are possessed with ourselves or how we're possessed or obsessed, or how we hug or don't hug. And when you have Uranus going through Taurus, it's changing the way we think about money and possessions and what holds us and what doesn't hold us. To a large extent, we want higher knowledge to hold us and hug us. Higher intelligence as the ultimate aphrodisiac, or arousal of creativity. And it also, Uranus is opposing Scorpio, so that life is changing the mores concerning inheritance or other people's money or banking, and our ideas of death and rebirth. And there's some kind of new knowledge coming in, because Uranus is squaring Leo and Aquarius and opposing Scorpio. So Uranus is trying to bring about a change in the 11th house of friendships, Aquarius. Uranus is trying to waken us up. Is it possible to have an age of Aquarius, or is it just like a crazy lie because Saturn's there, Now remember, Jupiter has gone through Aquarius, and so air signs have been kind of positive this whole last year and more. But Saturn is working its way through, and Jupiter's trying to move into the water signs. So at the end of the year of 2021, going to 2022, Jupiter will bring happiness and more grace and more luck and love, and securities, private little worlds of fun, maybe, that when Jupiter enters into Pisces, it trines Cancer and Scorpio. And so Scorpios and Pisces and Cancer will be graced with a little more like expansiveness with their happiness. Saturn has been trying to find healthy structures, or Saturn can get you stuck and feel suppressed or oppressed or repressed and suppressed, and calls on your patience and endurance and perseverance and persistence, especially if you're you've learned it if you're a Capricorn, Libra, Aries, and Cancer. You learned it the last 2.5 years, 3 years, and Aquarius and Scorpio and Taurus and Leo now feel suppressed, oppressed, need for discipline, patience, long-term goals, new ways of handling things that allow you to feel secure while you're trying to grow. So these are kind of some of the things that are going on with the Saturn Uranus, and it actually hits around Christmas again. Let me just quickly look it up. Is it the 24th or something? That the Saturn Uranus, the third and final Saturn Uranus, of whether we've succeeded with making new structures that will hold us or we're still breaking down. Stop breaking down. It's on the 24th, on Christmas Eve, early in the morning. And so you're going to feel that. I mean, that's a tough little aspect to have place, where right on Christmas Day, early in the morning, is Venus conjunct Pluto. So Christmas Eve is kind of a tough little thing, I mean, the solstice on the 21st, the moon opposes Pluto, and Mercury had just got done trining Uranus. So there's a lot of new insights that come on the winter solstice going into Christmas. And then you find out like how you did, On the 29th is Mercury of December. We're talking about December. Mercury conjuncts Venus and then conjuncts Pluto on the 30th. And so the end of the year is a real reconciliation of how our deepest self can not take things personally and try to share in a collective planetary need for peace and working together for peace and joy and prosperity, for long-termness, and the struggle of the have and have-nots, and the struggle of taking things personally versus personally being committed to a greater sense of security and freedom that comes from Bodhi mind, Neptune, and selfless learning, Pluto, of service, sacrifice, surrender to what's good for all of us. And I think that the part of Pluto is feeling what other people feel, so that's like kind of like the age of Aquarius, as we're entering into a sixth cultural epoch of theosophy and Steiner-esque type understanding, where we're moving into either forced community and brotherhood, like on a communistic level, terrible, or state-run fascist totalitarian level, or authoritative level, which God forbid, and deity forbid, and virtue forbid, and love forbid, and compassion forbid, and that what we should be doing is you may not be able to give money, but you can give of yourself a little bit to help others grow and do your best and to learn from your mistakes and keep growing and knowing. And that is why the study. And the meditation on stillness. So I'll continue this with another astrology talk on the big things that are going on in September and October, like right now, leading us into the end of the year and the new year, because September isn't so rough, actually, although in previous predictions and my newsletters, that I've predicted that in the past, like long ago, I predicted that Trump would win the first election and whoever was running would win the next election and Trump would lose. And now I'm predicting that, Trump and the California governor have incredible good aspects for the next election, for either their guy or themselves to be involved. And this is all from astrology. This isn't what I'm wishing or anything. I'm wishing for world peace and enlightenment, and that we all are family and friends. and everybody seems to have enough to be a creative artist, and a human being with a garden. Whether you have a lot or little, you have a garden and you're a human being, and you have friends and you have enough good food and health and education and medical, right? We need the necessities of life. Aristotle thought we should have, and the Neoplatonists, that we should all have security and education and protection. And then as we get older, and good food, and as we get older, the more we give, the more we should get. We don't just like crassly profit without giving back. The more you give to help society and culture and art and music and the peace for the world and happiness for the world, the more that you get to try it again, to give even more. Something like that. This is my artistic point of view. And the thing I'm trying to point out now, before we go on, is that October has a lot of tough aspects where I think that the president and the vice president have to go to a higher octave of planets, or is it possible that there'll be such difficulties that President Biden might step back a little bit, and Kamala Harris might have more say or play, and it's a very difficult time where wisdom and long-term view has to come into view. And this is in October, where the United States has to step up to a new way of being a world leader with wisdom, compassion, and creative insight. Uranus-Saturn wants creative insight that will last. And obviously we can't just throw money at rich people or throw money at poor people. We need to throw education, inner and outer education. Offer it, not throw it at everyone. So, okay, more in the next astrology little sharing I'm going to do here. I know it's kind of rough, but it's a lot easier just to share with you and talk than to write all this down. And Uranus' things are happening fast, and old structures and words don't last, and we constantly need a new way of seeing things that enlivens our participatoriness with all life and ourself. And we need to have solid food and good sleep and exercise and fastidiousness and right diet and being free of addictions. So, and having some sense of radical, or rather than radical, a sense of deeper stillness to behold and hold. Our peace of mind, our holiness, our stillness, learning, beholding, and holding each other with a willingness to learn anew truth and love that will hold us all. So I'll talk to you in the next, this is 33 minutes that I shared, and I'll talk to you again at the next astrology little sharing that I'm going to do to try to tune into what is going on September, October, and then into December, the new year. Let's enter the Aquarian age together. This is Robert of MayflowerBookshop.com. You can catch me in my website and on YouTube. Bless your heart.